Good evening. I'm Jacqueline Sustaita, President of the Weslaco ISD Board of Trustees. This board workshop is being conducted in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Notice of this workshop has been posted online for at least 72 hours. A recording of this workshop is being made and will be available to the public at a later date, and it is on YouTube right now. The time is now 5:12 p.m., and I will call this workshop to order. I'll now begin the roll call. Trustee Rodriguez. Trustee Cuellar.
Present.
Trustee Castillo.
Present.
Trustee Trevino. Trustee Nieto.
Present.
Trustee De Los Santos. A quorum is not required for a board workshop. Move on to item number 3, public comments.
There are none.
There are none. Thank you, Mr. Martinez. We'll move on to item number 4, which is the presentation on proposed needs for school bond election propositions A and B by Dr. Rivera.
Yes, thank you. We met with Mr. Adi Hinojosa and Dr. De Los Santos, and we look now at the proposed bond election of $160 million instead of the $150. And these are the new figures that they presented. If you look on Part A, this is the total tax, the M&O, the INS. For this school year, it will be 0.9593. In 2024, the total M&O INS is 0.9464, which is lower than 23. Now, in 2025, the tax rate, the M&O and the INS goes to 0.09564, or a 1 cent increase from 24. But if we look at 23, the 95.93 and 95.6, it's actually still lower than 23. Now this is based on a 1 cent increase to the overall tax rate from 24 and 25, still below the current overall tax rate. The tax rate is projected to stay below the 9.9564 for the life of the bond, and the 30 years, the maturity will be in 2054. Now, under their presentation, the homeowners, the taxpayers of Weslaco, will pay approximately 33% of the $160 million bond election. The other will be part of a different formula plus what the state will provide. So 33%, the taxpayers have a total of $160 million. On page 2, they have provided an estimated market home value, and if a home is valued at $100,000, the tax with the homestead exemption of $100,000, there's no tax at all for anyone that has a home valued at $100,000 or less. At $150,000, the value with a 100 exemption, the increase would be $6.87. At $200,000, the increase with the exemption would be $10. And at $250,000, with the exemption, the tax would be $15 more per year. At a home at $300,000, with the exemption, the tax would be $20. Again, the important thing here is for everyone to go ahead and have the $100,000 for the homestead exemption.
So, question, Dr. Rivera. So everybody, homeowner, qualifies for the exemption,
Yes.
correct? The 100,000
Yes,
exemption.
yes, but
Okay.
they have to go out there and do the formal application and apply
Correct.
for it.
Okay.
And I believe most of them have already. So on page 3, I went ahead and just for the board, for the information, for the public, for the community, Weslaco ISD, from when I was here to the present, our tax rate really is very low compared to the 5A and 6A school districts. For example, Weslaco is right now, again, 0.9593. Edinburgh is 6 pennies higher. McAllen about 14 pennies higher. Mission 18 pennies higher. Los Fresnos 18. Donna 18. Harlingen 20 cents higher at $1.15. PSJA 23, Brownsville 25, Edcouch Elsa 26, La Jolla 26, San Benito 35, and Mercedes 40. So even with a 1 penny increase, you can see compared to the other 5A, 6A districts, we are very, very low. And our taxpayers are fortunate because people that live in these districts pay a higher amount of taxes. Now, this is the first presentation. Mr. Estrada is here, and Mr. De Los Santos, if you have any questions on this part of this presentation, they're here in case you have any questions for them.
I have a quick one.
Go ahead.
For people who are 65 years and older, how does that affect their tax rate?
The same thing as the homestead exemption, as long as they have filed a 65 and over exemption, that needs to be filed with the appraisal district. And so what that does, it freezes their taxes at that point of time, whenever it was filed, so their taxes will not increase at all. They're frozen as long as they don't do any type of improvements on their property, because then it gets a new value pertaining to them, and then they'll get frozen from that point on. So as long as there's no improvement and they do have that application in, they should have zero increases to their taxes, regardless of the tax rate.
That's correct, and I should have taken that question because I can speak from experience.
So it would be a minimal expense to people whose home value are between 100 grand and these numbers here. And then for residents who are over the age of 65, their tax rate should not be affected at all.
As long as they have their homestead exemption filed and they're over 65 and over exemption filed as well, so.
And these numbers, like the $5 and the $10, that's not a monthly cost, that's an annual.
Yes, yearly.
Yeah, so, okay, so a couple cents a month for.
We have a study, but you may have some disability, possibly for persons with disabilities or armed forces. Some districts have exemptions for those folks. So if they're there, it just reduces the tax rate.
If you've already filed for what's the current homestead is 40,000? Do you have to file again for the 100,000, or is that automatically done?
It'll be automatic as long as it passes in November.
Correct.
So it's, but last time it went up from 25,000 to 40,000.
Yeah.
It passed with, 90%, so that's why the state's already pretty much guaranteed it's gonna pass in November, and it will be automatic.
But just for the sake of assumption, to assume that it's going to be done and we don't file, that we don't want to miss the boat on that.
Yeah, correct. Get your filing in if you don't have one, but if you do have it in there, it'll be an automatic increase.
Okay, thank you.
My question, last time that we met, if we said the average homeowner, the average home for 168,000 was going to pay around $15, I believe, more, and it was for 150 million. Now this is 160, and it's even less, right? It's instead of 15, it's $6.87.
It was low, it was lower last time.
It was lower.
Yes, it was lower.
It was
Oh, okay.
$3.44.
At 150, it was lower. Yes.
Okay, I was thinking the average was $15 for the. So it was even lower, which these numbers are, great.
Any other question? No. Okay, part two of the presentation. This is the actual $160 million. At the last meeting, we had two propositions. We had A and B, and in talking to a bond counsel, a possibility of going with a third one. So what we did is there's three propositions. There's A, school improvement, B, the fine arts, and C, athletics. So if the board passes this for us to go for a bond election, the citizens can vote on all three, or one or two is their choice on all three. But on Proposition A, this is what we have done. We're going to work on roofing, HVAC, student restrooms, safety and security, campus renovations, and technology for $140 million. Proposition B, the fine arts. HVAC, safety and security, fine arts expansion, renovation and upgrades, 10 million. Athletics, Proposition C, athletics, stadium upgrades, field house remodeling, running tracks, tennis courts resurfacing, $10 million. On the following page, we have, in rank order, we had the study that was made, and staff has been working on these. I have been working on this also since January. I've been involved where the roof leaks are. And in rank order, these are the ones that we have 1 through 12. And you can see next to it, you have the partial or complete with a CC, a C, or a P. The current cost estimates is listed, with the anticipated inflation is also listed, and then the total on the bottom. Same thing for the HVAC. These are the campuses with the most need, and again, a partial or a complete with the current cost estimates and the inflation. On the following page,
Dr. Vera?
Yes,
On
yes.
this particular page, I was reading that some of the schools are not listed, but I'm assuming because we had already upgraded their HVAC,
That's correct,
Like
yes.
Airport, North Bridge, and Memorial,
that's,
we had upgraded a few years ago.
that's correct.
Okay.
These are the ones listed in kind of rank order, what I've been to visit also with Americo
Okay.
and with staff. So these are the ones listed this way.
Okay.
On this following page, we have the location of the student restrooms. And again, we've listed the restrooms. On safety and security, we've listed what needs to be done. The vestibules will be the ones that we're looking at for student safety. On page 3, the safety and security, the fire alarm system, we've listed 1 through 12, and also with the amounts, the current, the inflation, and the projected. And then we have the access controls and the amount. On page 4, still on Proposition A, we have the flooring of the 2 campuses. We have the kitchen cafeteria improvements, again in rank order. We have the ag farm remodeling. We have the drainage improvements, again from the one that needs it the most to the least. And on the following page, we have the building envelope for the campuses, the Pulvera Complex, Airport, Memorial, North Bridge. At Weslaco High, we have classroom upgrades for the amount. Technology, we have the amount with a total of $140 million. Does the board have any questions on Proposition A?
Yes, can you explain what building envelope means?
Mr. Merkel, I'll let you handle that one.
Good evening, Madam
Good evening.
President, members of the board, Dr. Vera. Yes, so building envelope essentially is the shell of a building. So all that makes up the walls, the perimeter walls, the exterior walls, the roof, and so forth. And so, for example, I use Sepulveda as an example. We've got water that's coming in every time it rains into the competition floor and in the classrooms over on the northwest side of the complex. And so we're trying to make sure that we get that addressed and seal every crevice or every expansion joint that's out there between walls and so forth.
Okay. I'm noticing Airport, Memorial, North Bridge, they all have the same floor plan. Were these built around the same time, or is there something wrong with the design of these buildings or something that?
No, so the way they were designed with some tile in some sections of the walls in the front area of the campuses. And yes, they were all built around the same time, the same footprint. I believe the oldest one is North Bridge from 89, 90, and then 91, 92, Airport and Memorial came in. And so it's the same design. And so we're looking at addressing that tile because that tile's fallen off.
Okay.
So that's part of what we're calling the building envelope, to
The
make sure
envelope,
that
okay.
there's nothing going on there that's going to allow any water from going into the
I
campus.
see. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that.
Okay, on B, Proposition B, this is the fine arts, $10 million. Staff met with Mr. Fernandez, and we looked at the list, and this is what is being projected as the most immediate needs: the HVAC, safety and security, the vestibules, the fine art expansion at the 4 middle schools. We don't have very much right now for our kids on the fine arts at KWES, Mary Ho, B. Garza, and Central. There's some band storage that's needed. There's a director's tower. There's lighting upgrades. And Proposition B, again, for $10 million. Does the board have any questions on Proposition B?
One
Okay,
question on
yes.
the other one, Wesco High School classroom upgrades. What is your thinking on that? What upgrades do they need? Is it just in general the classrooms or
Yeah,
upgraded?
The classrooms. I think you were there many years, and I was too. So
Right.
the classrooms really are there from 1975, 76. Americo, you want to more or less give a little update on this one?
Is it,
So it is a general remodeling plan that we have, and so whatever we can get for that budget and be able to fit into the scope of the needs. And of course, we're gonna get the input of all the occupants there, the principal
right,
and the teachers and department heads, and so whatever is priority we'll tackle, because there's more needs than just the $50 million we'll cover.
okay.
If I could kind of piggyback off of that. So, yeah, you have $15 million on the Weslaco High School classroom upgrades, and I know it's older than Weslaco East, but we don't want to be in a position where one campus has better facilities than the other. So is there anything that we could do to make sure that students of both high schools are in comparable settings?
Well, and essentially, that's what we would be doing with this money is for the high school, to try to bring it up to par, because of what you said, that the East High School being a newer campus than Weslaco High. So we're trying to make them equitable that way. And again, East High School, we have the roofing that we're trying to address. We have all the air conditioning as well.
Well, what year was East built?
That was around 99. That's when it
So
opened.
we're not going to bring Weslaco High School classrooms up to par that were 20 years ago, right? So they're going to come up to today's standards. So if we could do something like that for East as well, to make sure that, both kids or kids from both high schools have the same type of classroom experience.
We can look at definitely the needs and do some more research into finding out what exactly is needed additionally at these.
Yeah, no, and I understand this is, like you said last time, it's not the scope and the scope phase or whatnot, so we don't necessarily know what that means, but I just don't want to be in a position where one high school has state of the art and East is, or we just kind of flip it around and we're going for this big of a bond. Let's try to address both classrooms.
I think it's hard for us to picture because we haven't actually, last time I was in classroom in Weslaco High was many years ago. And Weslaco East, I'm not too familiar with the classrooms, but I think it's hard for us to visualize like how exactly the difference between the classrooms are, because we haven't actually seen them or walked through. And you guys don't have any pictures to, maybe on the board update, just to help us visualize, if you can add some pictures of classrooms in there, just to have the visuals and for us to understand
Certainly.
how it looks.
We can do that.
We can do that. Yeah.
On the board
another thing-
update, maybe.
But Doc, you know what I mean, Doc? We just want to make sure that the
Oh, yes,
classrooms are.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so another thing to consider is that through the year, standards have changed as far as classroom occupancies, and so the spaces have changed. So now the requirement is 700 to 800, 900 square feet per classroom for students, occupancy of 22 to 25 or so. And so that has changed drastically from the time that the high school was built, so there's a need for increasing the spaces in the classrooms.
One question, Dr. Do you know if at the high school, they still have floating teachers? Because, the number of classrooms, I understand, but do we still have floating teachers
Right
like
now,
we
to the
used to?
best of my knowledge, we have very few,
Okay,
but I will double check and put it in the
Yeah.
update.
okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Proposition C now.
Oh, Doctor, before we move on really quickly, the Performing and Visual Arts Center. I was talking to you earlier about how we're going to have the convocation soon. And I know this is an annual one-year thing, but even during the year, the events that we have in there, it gets pretty packed. I know that we have an upstairs area where the overflow of, whoever's sitting there goes upstairs. Are we going to do anything just to, I don't know how it looks up there. I know some people have told me, well, we're upstairs and we don't even look at the convocation, but we see it through a screen. It's not the same experience as when we're actually sitting there in front of the stage. We're having to sit upstairs and look at a screen. As far as the Performing and Visual Arts Center and the I don't know if it says expansion here somewhere. It says lighting upgrades, HVAC, safety and security. Are there any plans to try to expand the seating there or try to see what we can do with the upstairs to make it part of downstairs? Is there any plans? There's no plans for
That's
that?
not included in this.
Okay,
No, ma'am. So what we're doing to address that is just doing a rotation on an annual basis. Last year, for
Okay.
example, we had the transportation department upstairs, and this year we want to make sure that we rotate them and bring them down and have another
Okay.
group up there.
okay. Or even like during the year, during the events, during the school year events, I don't know how much we use the upstairs, but I know people are sometimes standing around the edges, so I was just wondering about expansion of that, but it's not included in
Yeah,
here.
we don't have.
Okay,
that
all
is
right.
a need.
That's a good proposal, but it would be a new complex. You would need a new complex
Right.
in order to,
There's no room
houses-
for expansion there.
No.
It's already real tight.
yeah,
It is
Yeah.
extensive, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, on the following page, on C, this is athletics. This is for $10 million. We're looking at Lackey Stadium, some roofing, at Lackey Stadium, some restrooms, at Lackey Stadium, some canopies. And again, this stadium is the Panther Wildcat, or Wildcat Panthers. It's used by both teams. At Weslaco East, we need a field turf replacement completely. And we talked last time about at Lackey, and that one, we probably have about 2 or 3 more years of use for Lackey. On the field house remodeling, this is the ones for Cuellar and for Central. And the running tracks for the middle schools and the Weslaco East. At Central, Big Garza, Cuellar, and Mary Hogue, for example, they have dirt tracks, and during the season, we have to bus these students at Central, at Big Garza, and at Cuellar to both high schools. So with this, they would have their own running tracks, and we're in need of tennis courts resurfacing. So the total here is $10 million. Mr. Freddy Rodriguez is here. If you have any questions on Proposition C for athletics.
I have one, Doctor, on the, I can't remember if it was this district or another one, natatorium. Is our natatorium okay?
Yes,
As far as HVAC and all that good stuff?
yes, I think we did some work on
Yeah,
that
we
one.
just did work on it.
We just-
And we built that pool, I don't know how many years ago, but at that time it was state of the art.
Yeah.
And it's still in good condition.
Okay.
We do have that under the air conditioning.
Oh, okay, you're taking care of it under their condition.
Trying to get that, but yes.
What work was done recently on that, Americo?
So we're working on a project right now to replace the unit for the pool there.
Okay,
That's ongoing. It's already been approved and it's ongoing. The contractor has already placed the order for the equipment. We're just waiting for them to receive the equipment and get going on that.
On the baseball, softball fields, we had looked at that sometime back. Has that already been budgeted for, and that's why it's not included in here?
It was a turf, right? Yes, sir. We looked at it, but with 10 million, we didn't include it. At both high schools.
I know we
discussed it.
it,
Yeah.
but it never
It's-
was budgeted
Yeah.
for,
Well, the turf, right?
Correct.
So it's two at softball, baseball, at Weslaco High and at Weslaco East. So those, again, the plan are, once if we pass the bond election, to use those with local funds to get those done.
Okay, good.
So it's not gonna be all from this, but we can do it from local funds.
So it's still not a project that we're putting on the back burner, just
Right.
looking at a different budget
Looking at it
source?
from a different budget.
Awesome.
And it will be done.
Thank you,
It
Doctor.
will be done. Because every year, like this past year, we came back with about $3 million that we're using other projects, but next year, that's the plan to go back and do those with those monies.
okay.
I'm looking at the running tracks. I know that Central has the running track already right now, and so does Weslaco East. You know, but B. Garza, they don't have one, and neither does Cuellar, and neither does Mary Hogue, so they go to the other schools,
Right.
right, when it's football. But I'm looking at the cost, Central, 1 million, And it already has existing tracks, but the other ones are 900,000. So what are we gonna do to Central more that it already has
The
one?
one, the one there is in very bad shape, the one it's
So
in.
it's in such bad shape that we're anticipating additional work with the foundation. of
With the
track.
foundation,
Yeah,
okay.
So for example, at East High School, we may just need the rubber surface to be redone, but the foundation may be in very good shape.
What about the ones that are non-existing, that are gonna start from scratch? Is, that's gonna be enough for?
So the proposed was a 4-lane track, but if we have enough for additional lanes, then we can go down.
4-lane track, oh, okay.
So, Mr. Sata, even Central Middle School is starting to bus their students to the stadium because that track surface is just not safe. It's
A lot of the middle schools in the valley have a 4-lane track
Yes.
for the middle schools.
Okay, okay.
And then they have their regular track meet at
the
the
regular-
actual stadium.
right.
Same material, same material
Yeah.
as the track, but just not as wide.
So then, like the football games, let's say that with the football kids, they'll be able to play at their own middle school once we have that track, and if we work on the turf or the grass, instead of
Yes.
like way out, go or Mary Hogue coming to, well, they play at East now, right? Not at
Yeah,
Central.
but they do play at Mary Hall sometimes, depending on the time of the day, sometimes we have sub-varsity games at the high school that Mary Hall will stay at their campus. KWES is a little bit harder because the field is not as wide or long for a regulation football field,
Right.
so they get bused to East. But eventually, the plan is to have each middle school, their football field or for soccer, for all the activities there on campus. So that's a goal.
Do we have, currently, do we have bleachers at the middle schools? At those, like, say at Mary Hope? I think I've seen
We
some
do.
bleachers, right?
We do have some bleachers. Not
Okay.
very many, but we do have some bleachers.
Okay. That's something also,
Yes, that's what I was
think
about to
about.
ask.
And, long-term, the investment will be a good one, because right now we're having to send a lot of our middle school students to only certain locations because they don't have this track to practice on. So it's going to be a very beneficial
Yes,
endeavor, yeah.
That's awesome.
okay.
this is the presentation, and again, it's,
Hey, Doctor,
It's
I
what?
want to thank you, Doctor. Thank you for the detail and all the information. I know we had a whole bunch of questions, and you answered them all. Thank you for the great work on the presentation.
thank you. Well, staff and I work together, it's a team. Let me just say in closing on this one is that the amount and at 30% that someone's gonna pay taxpayers, and the state pays the rest of it, and with a small tax increase, we're still the lowest, so it's in my eyes, it's a very, very good deal. But again, we'll have the citizens decide on A, B, and C if that's the route they wanna go. That's my presentation. Now we have the next one, and we have Mr. Ricardo Perez on the bond council.
Hey, Doc, can I make a quick comment on that? Just to kind of show, or to discuss with the taxpayers that this administration has been very responsible with the taxpayer money. You went from a $200 million budget to a $180 million budget in 1 year. Your tax rate has stayed the same. We haven't had a RIF, and we still gave raises.
Yes, sir.
So I think that's important
Yes.
to kind of highlight. That's a big deal. You reduced the budget by $20 million in 1 year.
Yes. Well, staff and I working together, it's all of us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam President, Dr. Rivera, member trustees of the board. Okay, my name is Ricardo Perez. I've been working with Mr. Robledo and Mr. Aguilar the last couple of days, and also with Dr. Rivera, trying to get the proposition together. Now that they've narrowed the projects, they've got the amounts down. I've prepared a bond election order that will be presented to you gentlemen, I think Tuesday of next week. Once that order is approved by the board, we will go ahead and, we got to translate it to Spanish also. We'll post it. We'll get with Mr. Robledo so we can publish it in the newspaper. We got to upload it on your webpage. We have to post it in 3 different areas throughout the school district where the general public can see it. So we're going to have to get permission, like, let's say, from your H-E-B and a Walmart and maybe a restaurant that people usually frequent. You got to post those out there, let the public know that there's a bond election happening. I'll provide a calendar to Mr. Robledo and Dr. Rivera as far as the early voting locations. The election day, we will get with the county, because I assume the county's going to run your election. I think Mr. Robledo's already got the questionnaire that the county sends out, where you got to fill out, and then they say how much they're going to charge you to run your election. and we'll assist Mr. Robledo and the rest of the staff in putting your whole election together.
Mr.
Do you have
Robles?
any comments?
Yes, have you been in contact with the county?
Mr. Abel has had a meeting with them. We are working together to make sure that we fill out all the appropriate.
Has anybody mentioned to you that it has to be in by 5 o'clock, the election order,
What day?
on the 21st? Because we heard that, and so we're advising our clients to do it, to have their board meetings earlier in the day.
No, so, good afternoon, Madam
afternoon.
President, members of the board, Dr. Rivera. That specific question, I did ask the question, we did have a virtual meeting today, and I did inform them that we were gonna have a workshop, board workshop, and, decision would be made on the 15th.
Oh, okay.
So they said that they were fine.
Yeah, that's not the deadline's on the 21st. so-
Yeah, so we're good, exactly, that's when the deadline's at, so we're good with that.
I still don't have my answer. I've been dealing with Dr. De Los Santos and other places on this.
Yeah, no, but we just wanted to make sure because they were throwing out 15th, 21st, and they were fine with it.
So to be clear, by the 15th,
Oh, you're good on the 15th.
okay,
We're good on the
We're good.
15th.
It would have been different if we had our board meeting on the 21st.
okay.
That gets
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
Because then we would want to have the board meeting early, so to meet our 5 o'clock deadline. Correct. So we're.
For November.
6 months.
Yes, for November.
For November.
If we
that's
choose
correct.
November, it's either November or May, correct?
Yeah, those are the.
Everyone's
What
looking
we're
like, what?
discussing right now is for November.
Yeah, we don't want to go.
Okay, we don't want to go May,
No,
that's what he's
no.
saying.
Those are the deadlines moving forward for November.
Okay. Sounds good. Are there any other comments, questions?
Good presentation.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
We look forward to putting this whole deal together for you.
Yes, we're very excited. I know the community, I mean, once people get educated and understand that these numbers came together at, seems like just the right time with legislation and everything happening. It's very exciting to just think about, hopefully we can work together as a board and as a community to try to get this bond passed. So, sounds good. Thank you so much.
It's a good deal for the school district.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, that takes us to the last item, which is adjournment. It is 5:44 PM, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Awesome presentation, Dr.
Yes, very, very good. When I said November, I made it like.
Not getting into it today.
Talk to-
John,